Welcome to the program. We're bringing on him from Sermon. Him, thank you for joining us.
You just released new music, or you're in the process of releasing some new stuff, right? So 7 days ago, you dropped a new single. I think you had a new song out about a month ago. So tell us about this role. How's that going for you, dude?
It's, to be honest with you, not much has changed on the day to day. It's quite nice to see some reaction, because I've lived with this album for maybe 2 years in its kind of finished state, and it's just taken so long to get it released. But it's kind of a relief in a way, but also at the same time, we're sort of at the start of things, and we're a relatively unknown band. So I'll be interested to see what happens when the reviews come in. Hopefully they're not universally slating us.
I'd like to say the same about the latest Offering record, but
it's just you guys must get this pressure right, because it's just I guess it's it's always going to happen, right? You're always going to get, and that, I think it's fair enough. Honestly, you put it out into the public, you should expect it. It's just if everyone says it sucks, that's when it sucks.
Yeah.
I hopefully it won't happen that way, but I mean, you never know.
Yeah. I mean, we both share. You know, one of the things I first noticed when I was looking through your band was we both share a kinship, I feel like, with Angry Metal Guy. They loved your 2019 album, and they're always like so super nice to us. Yeah. And I'm like, that to me, like I look at because that's a very active comment section of like a prog metal forum, I feel like. And I usually think that's like kind of like my measuring bar of like rationality, because like they might say something super nice, but their fans are so active and they'll talk to each other on that forum that sometimes I'll like read back and forth and I'll be like, oh yeah, like this is kind of a concrete opinion. Like, you know what I mean? Like something can kind of like form to the general public. But I mean,
yeah. Well, hopefully, because the guy who reviewed the first album, Mike, he reviewed it well. Whether I'll get him again or whether he even likes it is a different matter, though. But
he seemed to like it a lot. I think he liked it a lot.
And I'm now, I would say, fairly good friends with him. Actually, he actually came over to England and we went for a drink, and one of the other writers actually, who I don't think really liked the record, but we got on well. It doesn't offend me really. But it does if it was, as I say, like broadly disliked. So yeah, I think it would hurt a bit, and I'd be like, it would be hard to find the energy to do more, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. Is I was gonna ask. So we're kind of seeing a bit of a revival of the anonymous frontman, so to speak. You know, like whether. When I saw that you were doing it, I always feel like it's very, especially commendable in today's world, because people love having a target. I feel like with people commenting, people like want to assign a face to the thing that they're talking about or gossiping about. And one of my biggest hurdles, honestly, was trying to rationale with my own band of like, look, like these are strangers. They don't actually like their opinion of you isn't actually of you. It's just like this image of, you know, what they perceive as you, but like you have 24 hours in a day where you're probably not even, you know, you recorded a video, you made the album, that's not you right now, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like, because I feel like you have like pros and cons where you can express that individuality and kind of show people your interests, but then you also, you know, are the subject of like, you know, your personality is the subject of talk and conversation and gossip. Do you feel like you've balanced that pretty well? Like, how's that going for you?
Well, I suppose one of the reasons I don't look or dress in the way that the music sounds. So if I go to a metal gig or something, I'm quite often the guy where people are like, "Oh, what, you don't like metal," or something like that. And then that's always So I don't really look the
What the
part.
fuck does that even mean? You know, like you don't look that. You know, like
Well,
I'm so critical of that stuff. I'm sorry. It just why would someone say that?
So I was watching James, my drummer, play in Vader, and I'd go to all the Vader shows whenever they come. And one day I was wearing a Van de Graaff Generator T-shirt, and some guy turned around and was like, "Oh, typical prog shirt at a metal gig." You even know who Vader? And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I would know the band, and we're gonna go get drunk afterwards, man. Like, I love Vader."
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been the case. Like, it's quite strange actually, because I feel like while the metal community is definitely very tight knit, I do feel like they're particularly spiky compared to other like subcultures or fringe groups that I've experienced in London. And for that reason, I think I've always been a little bit self-conscious of being in a metal band, making the music that I like. But realizing I don't really look the way it sounds, and but then equally, a lot of those people are going to hate a mask too, so you can't really win. But in terms of, it doesn't, like, as you can probably tell right now, the way I'm talking to you is not. It's not a character. It's not. I'm not putting on a voice. I'm still my same dumb self. And I'm wearing a scary looking mask, so it's not. I haven't. It's not like Ghost, for example, where he puts on a little voice and there's like a character that's like a really extroverted version of himself. I am still, I guess, the same person, because I think it would just be too hard, and I would be very difficult to be sincere, I think.
That sounds healthy. Like that's how it's supposed to.
Yeah, it makes doing this much easier, because otherwise I'd have to, maybe put on some weird deep voice or something, or have like a voice box, or just sound more ominous and mysterious than I really am.
Yeah, I mean, I do think I think everyone has a different. I feel like every masked singer or every masked band that has come out and kind of blown up, they've done it different ways. Like Slipknot, their names are still up there, right? They never. Yeah. I feel like, did they ever hide their names? I don't know if they ever hid their names.
I think they did early on, right?
Numbers, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But Ghost, like you said, that's a full on. That is a full on. Heart. Like there's a wall and you're not allowed to see behind it, kind of deal. Aside from the lawsuit or whatever that was from way back in the day, but like.
Well, also we live in a world like during the Slipknot days, the internet was not as, I guess, as populated, and I mean, Ghost would probably came into that era where it sort of was, and I know they had like code names and stuff. But I do think that maybe because everything's being published these days, people are more aware, and I think we'll probably see more masked acts because of it. And it's not just in metal, right? Like, I think Genesis used to like paint their faces and stuff, and you got like MF Doom and Sia, Daft Punk.
Yeah, Daft Punk's probably the biggest example, I would say.
It's, I think it will be a growing thing for sure.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like that's like kind of the counterculture to what we have going on now, where like everything is public, everything is in access. Like, I mean, I'm not sure, like you're on Prosthetic. I'm not sure how they've interacted with you, but like with Century Media, like sometimes there's this pressure to like, you should be posting every single day. And it's like, maybe I'm going to get like heat for saying this, and I'm going to get called from Gitter or something, and it'll be like, why'd you fucking say that? Like, don't talk shit. But, sometimes it's just like, hey, like this isn't relevant to the band. Like the world doesn't need to know what I'm eating for fucking breakfast right now. Like, and that's to be respectful. Cause like Nick has complained, like sometimes you see a band and you're like, yo, like, I follow this band to like see the art process and to see like the whole atmosphere of it. Don't ruin the image, you know what I mean? Like don't break the sincerity of the project, I guess. Sometimes you see behind the curtain too much and you're like, dude, like this is taken away from it. Do you feel like you get that kind of pressure from Prosthetic at all, or do you think that you're kind of autonomous in that aspect?
On the first album there was a bit of that, But I honestly, I don't. I think they're on. I don't see, like, I don't really post. I mean, if there's an article published about us or we're on something, I wouldn't put it on like the main feed or something because it's not like the final outcome. But I put it on like stories and stuff. But yeah, having just a constant flow of content is it's hard, isn't it? And also I think what you're doing is you're trying to please a machine and not a person. And the theory is that if you please the machine, you can get more people, but at the cost of, I think, content isn't going to get us, either of us, probably any more like riches.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
yeah.
famous. I think there comes an apex point where you are well known and you then can become a personality on top of that through doing other things. So Behemoth, Nurgle, like the guy's Instagram is a very
Same coffee, baby.
Yeah. Who else is pretty open with that? Actually, Garl. Have you ever, Garl?
No, actually, no. Is he also doing that?
So where he's not, he's not it's not the same as Nurgle, where Nurgle's quite I don't want to say vain, but because I think he's quite an enigma, basically, Nurgle, and he knows it, and I think he's very, very good at social media. Garl you get to see him with his boyfriend, and they're really interested in wine, and it's a very intimate like publishing of his life, compared to, say, when he was in Gorgoroth and he'd be on an interview and wouldn't say anything until the word Satan fell out of his mouth. But so we live in that world, and I don't know, maybe I would post this on Instagram, for example. Maybe it depends if I said anything clever.
Yeah, I mean, it is a highlight reel ultimately, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's like we used to complain about, or at least I feel like I say we, I got to get out of that, but I mean like the music collective, right? Whatever the bands that are releasing music that are in, say what you want to call it, the industry machine, right? We used to be kind of apprehensive towards like MTV or like these, media journalistic kind of, because they're trying to kind of tell your narrative for you. And I feel like now we have that like autonomy to be able to do that ourselves, but at what cost? Like at sometimes we don't know the limits that should be there, right? I think sometimes we don't think from that kind of perspective half the time. I don't think a lot of the musicians I've ever met are like marketing kind of people, like it's different hat to wear, so to speak, I feel like.
And there's basically no quality control, and there's no narrative building necessarily. And if there is, it's very difficult it's expensive to do, to like make it look really good. But then some people, I feel like they really benefit from it, like Matt Heafy doing Twitch.
Yeah. And I mean, I used to be kind of apprehensive about that. I'm full disclosure. Trivium is like one of my favorite bands growing up, and at first when I saw that he was doing Twitch stuff, I mean, Nick can attest to it, I was really apprehensive because I was like, this is too much. I'm seeing too much of him, and I think now he's kind of. I think I didn't take his own growth into consideration. Like now I feel like he's not, I feel like he's managing that element of his life a little bit more. For me, at least, I like it a little bit better the way it is nowadays, where it's more of kind of like what Herman Lee's doing too from Dragon Force, where it's a stream of content, but it feels relevant to what his package is, to what he's trying to do, so to speak. I'm sorry I cut you off there. I saw kind of the thought process, and I wanted to add on that before you continue.
I think you hit on something quite pertinent there. I think it's that they're offering something like almost like a learning experience, which is really interesting. And I think that in itself is quite, because you're offering something to people of value. It's not what they're eating. You know, it's not like you're just on the outside of the fishbowl of their lives.
Yeah.
They're really giving something back, and I think I can see value in that, and I can see, I would be really interested in pretty much anyone I like doing that. Like if Maynard James Keenan did like a singing lesson or something, I would watch that. I'd pay good money for that.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it, but
Yeah.
so I think content in that way is pretty cool. But I haven't figured out what's valuable to us yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all trying to figure that out as we're going along. I feel like, I mean, for me right now, it's a lot of like, what do I enjoy as a person, as a musician? Like, what do I want to do? And that's why I originally reached out when Nikki showed me your stuff, where I was like, for me, I'm really trying to spend the next few years of like, let me collaborate, let me see what's outside of the band that I'm in, and kind of see what does me as a person contribute in a project outside. And I think if I wasn't doing that out of earnesty, you know what I mean? Like if I was trying to like, if I was trying to do something, I mean, for me, that I can't really express what that would be like if it wasn't authentic, because that's just what I genuinely want to do. But if I was like pursuing something in the PR department just because it would get me more likes or whatever, it's like, I feel like anybody could see through that, I feel like it would show through at some point. Like, this guy is just
is this, so maybe the difference between us is this like, you seem to me like you're an extraordinarily skilled musician, and it's kind of your life, and you've lived and breathed it for quite some time, and you want to do what you can to make it a bigger part of your life. Do you think that's fair to say?
Absolutely. Well, it's also just like, let me milk this motherfucker for all it's worth. You know what I mean? Like, do you want me to be 60 and look back and be like, oh shit, I could have played more? Like, fuck, that sounds terrible. It sounds awful to me.
So the difference with me is that this part of my life doesn't exist really. In the time that I'm doing, like, I'm not a great musician, to be honest.
I would contest that with what I've heard, but go ahead.
It's okay in a studio, and I mean, I really love making songs, and I'll do what I can. Like, if I need to learn a new skill on the guitar to get to the point where I want to be in a song, I'll do it. But I won't bother learning how to sweep pick. I just can't be bothered. I can't think for it.
Yeah.
But and it's not, other than me, Steve like knocking on the door and being like, how's the new album coming? And then I'll be like, okay, yeah, I better sit down and write some music. Or it will just be like a Saturday, and I'll be like, oh, that's a cool idea. I've just got to hear it back.
Yeah.
I've just got to hear back what that sounds like. But that's how it lives in my life. But like, other than that, it really doesn't. It's strange. It just doesn't. It's not really a part of my life in a way. Mm-hmm. So I'm never really that desperate to. It doesn't, not mean to say you're desperate. It just doesn't. It doesn't really come into my brain other than when I want it to, and then I'll just do something then. But that will probably limit my success, I would say, and I don't think it's going to limit yours.
Well, I mean, it's just, success is such a funky ass word that we throw around in 2023. I feel like, because, like you said, like we're not flying the Iron Maiden jet. You know what I mean? We're at some point, and I drill this into my own band all the fucking time now, where it's like, when we first started doing this stuff, it's because we wanted to do it, right? Yeah. I feel like that always has to be the MO, or else, like I said, like, people are going to see that you're full of shit one way or the other.
Yeah, and also I think doing anything for money doesn't really end up very good, no matter what you do, honestly. Even if you're in like finance and investment, I would say, even though people want money, I think they actually just want to win, and they want to beat other people in a way. Or if you're setting up like a tech platform, you want to help or solve a particular problem you don't think is being solved. Money is a good end bonus, but I think if you do it for that, it's always going to be shit. Yeah, no matter what it is.
I think that's the thing too. Is I like that you use the word they want to win, because I think that's such a I think that's a term that like only you have to answer for yourself. Like what your idea of a victory is. This isn't football or sports where it's like, like a score on the board dictates like this game is over and like you've won. Yeah. Rather, it's like, what are your personal achievements and your personal accomplishments? And I think, putting, money's great though. I mean, I love eating, but it's definitely tricky when you have this arbitrary thing that everyone is pursuing, and you're saying just because everyone else, wants more of that and I want more of that, that means you've won because you've made more of it. When in reality, it's like, well, what'd you spend your time on, right? And I think that's the struggle that I see with a lot of, especially contemporaries that I've met so far, where you want to do what you love, but you also want to make sure that you can still eat at the end of the day. And there's this balancing act of doing that.
Because from my personal experience, and actually it's not anything to do with prosthetic, really. It's just the way the industry is, but it's simply records aren't sold enough. And actually the industry runs much more like a pyramid scheme than it's so the ratio of royalty to basically the advance or the loan is upside down. Mm-hmm. It's, let's say in venture capital, if it's 70-30, it's usually not in favor of the venture capital person who's given you the loan. Mm-hmm. But because I guess nothing's really sold, or it's really hard to monetize music, or even in metal, it's stupidly difficult.
Yeah.
And from the bottom of the chain, you're always trying to appease the next bit of the chain to the point where even the people at the label don't really make any money. And then people at Spotify, they're on a CEO salary, but then they're not really making any money off the actual platform. They're just doing it off investment. And so the whole thing just acts like a pyramid scheme. And it's just a bottomless well of people not being able to afford to be in their tier, essentially.
Yeah. I call it record label or record mafia, or music industry mafia.
Yeah. And also, it just means that people don't buy the physical product, I guess, as much. Yeah. Although the table's starting to turn, right? Like, vinyl's doing pretty good if you can actually get it made. It took a year. So.
Tell me about delaying my album a year because of vinyl issues.
Oh, Yep.
I'm still waiting on my Polyphia vinyl from their new album.
Yeah.
That keeps getting delayed.
And that's October, right?
Yeah, and they delayed it to March, and then I'm not sure where it's at now.
That's crazy.
What was that, Nick?
Oh, Polyphia's new album.
Oh, right, yeah.
Came out back in October. Supposed to deliver around like December, and they keep having to push it out. They're having production issues with it.
Yeah, I guess because it was the pandemic, wasn't it? And then you had people like Adele and Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift like getting millions of copies pressed, and there's only a few vinyl plants in the world.
Yeah, and we're all backed up trying to release the albums that were missed for a whole year. That production cycle, so everything's getting like crammed together.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see for sure. We were just talking about this on the last episode that we were recording. It was like, we're finally, I feel like in this year, entering that like post Fallout where, like you said, like things are backed up, that demand that's catching up, or all of these like delayed releases that are coming out. It's all getting like hit like that. We're seeing like the big chunk of it right now post 2020, which is funny because it's been like 2-3 years, but like that's really how long it takes to see the effects of these things take place.
Yeah, I think it's going to take. I mean, it'd be a good couple more years, I'd imagine, and hopefully another one happens. So
yeah. Tell me about the UK. What's that like playing? Have you played shows at all and touring anything like that?
We've done one show. It was not in the UK. It was actually in Poland for a festival called Prog in Park, and it was supporting Opeth and Alcest.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was good. It was the first time I've ever been on stage in my life, though, and I'd not even at school I'd ever done it, so I shit myself, frankly, because we were opening the festival, and there was not many people, maybe a couple of hundred people at the front when it started. I mean, luckily by the end of the second song, maybe there was about 3,000 or 4,000 people, but it was yeah, it was pretty terrifying. But we got through it, and it wasn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
The first song, my voice, there's a high note in it, and I was really tense, and I couldn't hit it. And unfortunately, that's the only song that was ever recorded online. So I sound like shit if you ever want to listen to me embarrassing myself.
I'll check it out. I don't think it's as bad as you think it is. I'll have to see though. But I think you're probably being too hard on yourself there. Are you a singer before you are? Because I know as a songwriter, like you probably have a good comprehension of everything, how the big picture works. Would you say that you're more of the singer than you are an instrumentalist, or vice versa?
Well, for the first album, I'd never sung in my life.
Okay.
So I was in the studio, and Scott Atkins, the producer, was literally teaching me how to sing.
Okay.
With a pen in my mouth, being like, sing over the pen, and it worked. Mm-hmm. But after that I got I decided I was going to get singing lessons, which has been great. It's completely changed the way I approach vocals. But I'm pretty much a jack of all trades, really. I'm primarily a guitarist. I can play just about enough piano to convince people that I might be able to play piano.
Composer's piano or producer's piano. What's the thing?
I'm still terrible, don't get me wrong. But it's enough to make my ideas work. And I think maybe like a drummer, like that's what I usually start with. Vocals is becoming the more important thing, though. Like I am considering the words more and how words are sung, which sounds sort of boring, but actually it's become more important to me, and I'd like to get better at it. Actually, guitar, I feel like I'm kind of fine at it. I don't really need to work too much harder.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great I think it was Ernie Ball or something. They did string theory on like Tim Henson or something, and he was like, guitar is kind of a means to an end or something like that, where it's like, and I people actually gave him a lot of flack for that, where they're like, oh yeah, because you just don't actually know how to play, and like a fucking pretty boy saying that. It's like, no, I actually think that's really true. I think sometimes you get too carried away as an instrumentalist, and you're like, there's still this overarching message you're supposed to be creating. And like sitting there and doing sweep picking for 4 minutes, like literally only you want to hear that. Nobody else. That's not a song, right? So,
but like you get like different types of like. For me, I don't tend to listen to a song to hear an exercise in technicality. Really, I want a song. It's amazing to watch Michael Romeo or Yngwie Malmsteen shred it. But yeah, at the same time, I couldn't decipher the difference between a lot of the music, because for me it's sort of doing because my brain's not attuned to it, I guess. Maybe I'm just a bit basic, and I just want to hear a big hook, and I want like interesting sounds to happen, and for me, I think the most technical part of sermon music is the drumming, which is certainly on the new album is ridiculous.
It's been pretty cool. The two songs that I've heard from that have been pretty sweet on the drumming side.
Have you got the album?
No, I just got the 2 singles. Nikki was just like, just here you go talk to him. But no, I would actually, when I've listened to your stuff, I was going to say the most technical thing that I was thinking of was actually, and this is what made me prompt to think that you were more trained on the instrumental side and the vocal side, not any shortage of vocal skill, but more as just, you know how to let things sit and let an idea kind of evolve and develop over 2 minutes. Like true singers, they can't sit still. And it's not about being basic or wanting a hook. Just sometimes it's like they just can't let a riff just develop and kind of evolve and move into the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is an undersold technical skill of any instrumentalist of any type, where you can build an idea and like kind of crescendo at the right times and let it get to that point where you do want to hear that vocal idea come back in, and you do want to move with the music a little bit.
Yeah. Restraint, I think, is a real skill. And I don't know how you guys write songs, but I try to establish the maximum that's going to be in the song. So what's the peak of it? Is it, maybe it's with a chorus potentially, and I'm like, right, how do I take away from the part before it? How do I add to it? And I try to find the threshold almost, so I can create the contrast between the parts. I think I'm okay at that. I would say that, and actually, I'm not technically a proficient singer, but I've got a friend who is a pretty good singer. He was like, the thing you're doing that is really hard is that you hold the notes for so long, because he's a singer-songwriter, so it's like acoustic, and I guess all the syllables are quite short. And I think, but it really works well for metal because you want everything to soar. You want it to really fly over the top, almost like you're doing a lead part or something. So I try it. Yeah, in that sense, it's quite hard, and it can be difficult to hold a note, especially if it's really high. There is a song on the new album that is, the vocal part is so high, I'm a little bit worried about it live.
I'm always worried about how to play songs live. I don't know about you.
Do you know what? Actually, because the guys around me are so good, I tend not to worry too much, because whatever happens, it's always going to sound pretty decent. But I'm definitely a little bit scared of that. Maybe we'll shoot down or something, because I don't have the skill.
I mean, there's a great quote, just thinking about what you were saying earlier, from Grant Kirkhope. He scored for like Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie and a bunch of other like rare video games. But he's like, when you're making a song, it's the easiest thing for me is not actually the core idea, it's the dress up. But the thing that takes him the most time is that core melody. And then he says you can dress it up any other way that you want to dress it. And like that's kind of the way I listen when I hear your stuff and the stuff that I like in general. It's, you have this core idea, and it's that core idea is firm and it's so, robust and solid. And then you just can spend as much time as you want adding the decorations to the whole thing and letting it kind of like go up and down around that one melody that you're trying to have as the core idea. But he was basically saying that core idea is the hardest part. All the other fancy thrills are, that comes afterwards, basically. And
it's very kind of you to say that, actually, by the way. Thank you. That's really sweet of you. Do you know what? My top tip for anything like that is to not think about it, and my number one method, and this is going to sound really terrible, is if I'm walking home from, say, the pub or something, I'll start singing to myself, and I'll just have a melody in my head, and that's very often the thing that creates the song. It could be a drum beat as well. It's usually drunk me having a a little sing along to myself. Don't drink though, kids. It's not wise. But you will become a creative genius.
It's a trade-off that I think a lot of people take.
Yeah. You'll die young, but you'll have left a great legacy.
Shit, that's wise advice for sure.
Too dark?
No, not at all. I think not dark enough, honestly. I'm kidding. Yeah, do heroin.
We can go darker if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've definitely I feel like I've come down from drinking as much as I used to, just because for me, in just the way that I have to approach it. And I'm not saying you need that looseness, I think, in some way, whether it's going for a walk. I think when you say going for a walk, like I resonate with that a ton, because like sometimes I'll just go out for 10 minutes, come back, and I'm brand new. I got a new idea ready to go. It's just that like calm kind of, I feel like every time I've sat down there and like broken a blood vessel, stressing out for an idea, I've never come up with anything worth saving ever. Like, forcing the issue is, the best thing is to do something different, as you say. And also, I guess with the drinking that you guys, if you're touring, that's a real dangerous. And I personally, I would be worried. I would actually consider maybe not drinking on tour, I think, because I know myself, and I know I'd probably just do it too much and damage myself, I'm pretty sure. So I get the restraint.
But I don't tour, and I just go to the pub on Fridays, and that's where all the ideas start, my friend.
Yeah. No, I wasn't shaming the drinking at all. I was just basically saying like once that looseness is over, then I have to like there's so much on the technical side because I do all the production on our end too, and a lot of the behind it's hard to sit in front of Pro Tools for 8 hours when you're liquored up. I'd much prefer a coffee, like.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even. It's unimaginable to do anything other than just rot away in my bed. Yeah. Best idea not to do it. You're right.
Yeah, this is the most complex Dare ad that you've ever seen. Is just a bunch of musicians talking about whether they should or shouldn't be drinking.
I mean, I'd say maybe don't, but also great for ideas.
My friend, it was great talking to you. This was a great conversation.
Yeah, very nice meeting you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. No, I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely. We will keep in touch through Nikki. I will definitely harass you about something later on for sure. Maybe have you on next year when the next release will be, whatever that'll be.
Hell yeah. I mean, if you're ever in England as well, drop us a line and.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bro, thank you. I will catch you on the flip side. I'll check the new album when it comes out. It's sounding great. Good work. Take it all right. Don't get too loaded at the pub next time. Just get enough to get the idea, not enough to not be able to get up in the morning. That's all.
But what about all the genius that can happen? All right. Anyway.
Peace.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thanks, man.
That was a conversation with him of Sermon. He's got a new album called Of Golden Verse. It's out on Prosthetic, March 31st. Go pick it up.
Yeah, you could do that. But most importantly, give me all your money. That would be great.
Thank you for listening to the weekly episode of Deep Dive Bombs. Man, that was a long week. We'll be back next week, maybe. Or maybe like 6 months from now. We'll see, But thanks for coming. Follow us on the things.
At Deep Dive Bombs on Instagram.
Leave a 5-star review. Don't come at me with this 4-star bullshit.
Yeah, someone make us a Yelp page.
Yeah.
Geotag us at the men's bathrooms at the local Macy's.
Right. See you next time.